Hi, it's Ileana Kapudnik here, and today we have Karl Mollison with us, who will be doing a channeling session with me of my higher self, some of the experiences I've had in the Secret Space program, and the interplanetary corporate conglomerate on some of the Mars bases, Moon bases, and other space station platforms. Welcome, Karl.
Thank you, Ileana. I'm very happy to be here and to be of service. I know you want me to talk a little bit about who I am, what I do. This is a new collaboration for you and I, and we just know each other through a mutual acquaintance, and there's no prior history here as far as that goes. And so I'm revenue neutral. You're a client like any other I would work with. So I have a variety of things that I focus on. I am first and foremost a healer, and I want to bring a better process and caliber of healing to the world. That's one of my goals, and I work hard at refining a protocol I use for remote healing work. And because of the things going on in our realm, it's grown to encompass lots of spirit issues, because there are spirit meddlers infesting most people. And we also have this overlay of extraterrestrial involvement, and they too are sending spirits here, and they're working with the dark spirits to entrain them and to target them towards particular individuals. So the ETs mess with us in all sorts of ways, directly and indirectly. So I just encounter this when I work on people, because I can see those energies and the involvements, and they have to be reckoned with. So I do a lot of remote healing, spirit releasement work, spirit rescue work for spirits that are trapped in the earthbound plane and haven't made it to the light. That happens about a third of the time. Most people are shocked in learning that, but it is true, and it's what I see. And then I do one-on-one healing sessions for people, often by the phone. I work with people all over and do a couple of different really helpful techniques for resolving trauma memories and to do negative self-limiting belief replacement work. So that's in a nutshell. And to do the channeling, I use a trance state, and I have opened it up to others now to be available to channel loved ones in the light. This goes a step beyond the typical psychic medium interplay, where the person can have a direct conversation with their loved one, because I can channel them and speak for them, and their words come through me. So it's an actual conversation. So in the same way, I can channel an individual's higher self, and that has turned out to be extremely rewarding, because the higher self is still not fully appreciated as to its range and power in helping their being that they are a part of. They have limits on what they can do, just like the divine realm, because we're supposed to be in charge of ourselves down here. And so we're making up the rules as we go along oftentimes and stumbling around quite a good deal. But we do have divine support, but we need to ask for it. And it's the same for the higher self. The higher self won't just rush in and do all it can. It's not allowed to. But we can reach out to it and appeal to it for information, for support, for healing, for guidance, for safety. And it can add to all of those things on our behalf. So this is a service that I offer to people. I give them some pointers. I give them a list of suggested questions and requests they can make, so they get as much juice out of the orange as possible, so to speak. So that's what I'm about. And I know you in particular want to do some fact finding, and so here we go. Your higher self is with you 24/7. So it knows your history. It knows all you've been through. And it knows a lot about you in depth. So this will be interesting, see what we can unearth together. I know there are always some limits on what the divine realm will share with people for many reasons. And I think that's true of the higher self as well. Its charter is to do no harm. So if it needs to shield you from certain tough truths, it might do that. So it won't be a cause directly itself of perturbing you in some way that could have karmic negative consequences. So, you know, there are certain caveats here. So we'll just do an exploration and see what happens.
Yeah, I understand that, like, some questions the higher self will say, I can't answer that for one reason or another. Sometimes they'll say that, but you know, I'm open-minded to anything. I've talked to my higher self before, so for me, I'm really open to what comes through, and to just be open-minded and non-biased in what information we'll find, and also to ask for some healing in the process along the way, if it's for the highest good.
Yeah, excellent, because this is something that is no accident, as it turns out, that we are feeling disconnected from our higher selves, because it is literally true. That is because of tinkering that's been done to us, to subjugate us, to disconnect us, and also, of course, to the divine realm as well. So this is your birthright, to have your best buddy partnering with you in a direct kind of dynamic interaction. And it's the same with the higher realms, that we should be talking to spirits and talking to Creator. And the fact we're not is because we've been messed with, and we're working to change this paradigm back to what it was meant to be. But in the meantime, individuals can work on themselves and ask for help with that and undo a lot of that alteration themselves for their own personal gain. So this is an ongoing drama, and everyone can work for the greater good. If you help yourself, you'll help others too. If you want to improve the whole of the collective, ask the divine realm to help all of us. This counts. Everybody can contribute to this. This is what the shift in consciousness is all about, that most people now are aware of who would be listening to a program like yours. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing my thing, and I invite others to contribute also.
And to be open-minded in the belief that anything is possible and anything can be explored. Like, your mind needs to be open to the aspect for this to be helpful. That's what I've learned from your document that you sent me, your 8-page document on preparing for what the channeling is, how it works, what you can get out of it, the benefits. To just be open-minded and willing to let the healing in if it's for the highest good, or the information that comes in.
Yes, that's a very important part. There are two things that are key. One is to reach out and request assistance. If you don't, they'll leave you alone. You'll be on your own totally, your whole life long. And they're happy to let you have that experience. It's part of learning and growth anyway, and we're going to get a lot of hard knocks in this place, so that's nothing different. It's just a kind of an extreme deprivation that you will go through. But this has been the ordinary experience for most people through all of history, to be disconnected totally. And to sometimes make a token outreach if they're religious in one life or another, and so on, but not with a lot of confidence they're being listened to and that sort of thing. And that's true today. So that's the first thing. Invite participation. Invite the divine realm to partner with you and your higher self in as many ways as can be allowed. And then the second thing is, you have to have belief. If you don't believe, forget it. You know, a half-hearted request will get a half-hearted response. They interact in proportion to our readiness and to our belief in the possibility, and that includes belief in the self to some extent, that you're worthy and deserving, and that it's safe to do this. And many people are closed down intuitively because of safety fears that are deeply held in the subconscious, because they've gone through horrible times. And they're afraid now to have the same thing happen, and they're afraid to reach out to the divine realm because they know historically this has caused them trouble in the past. And now they're afraid to do it. And that can get in the way also. Because we'll be allowed to curl up in a ball and and sit in the corner. You know, it's our choice. So this is, it's just to give people a perspective that this is not just cut and dried. It's not just like dialing a phone and God picks up the other end and you're fine. You know, you got a good connection. There's no barriers. Anything goes, and they can ask for the moon and get the moon. It's not so simple. There's a lot of blocks and adjustments and growth limitations that may come into play. And also the fact other people are watching can influence things as well. The divine realm will not interfere with people's disbelief. So they won't give you the winning lotto number for the $100 million jackpot, you know, because God wants you to know, and then, you know, have a big splash in the news, you see, because that would interfere with the disbelievers and shake them up potentially. So that's why most miracles are small miracles. They're personal, very personal. And that's for a reason, to respect the process and where everyone is at.
For sure.
We're going to shake things up, not the divine realm. But they are helping. Don't get me wrong. They are helping. Every time you have a happy thought, they can give you a pat on the back and encourage that. And that will put some wind into your sails and carry you forward. And that's how the shift is being done. It's being done on a very personal level for each and every individual who are open at all. They get a little encouragement, and that is what's making the difference. But you have to do your part, that's all.
Yeah, do your own work too, because it took me like 4 days to create the questions that I'll ask through of my higher self through the channeling process that you're facilitating. And I came up with 17 questions, and within those 17 questions there are smaller questions. So, and I just grouped it according to priority and what the group question is, just putting in my own work to get as much out of this as I can for my benefit and for others' benefit, whoever's listening possibly, so they can learn something from this experience and, you know, get in touch with you. How can we get in touch with you for your services?
Well, I have a website, teamarchangel.com. It's all one string, and it has my contact info, and you can find me there. And you'll see the various things that I offer. I have another website about my one-on-one healing work. That's mindbodyadvances.com. And I have those two hats that I wear. The latter is more mainstream. It's psychology-based techniques, but I do spiritual techniques as well. And I don't make a big deal about that because I deal with a lot of mainstream folk who are secular and who are science-oriented and so on. And I have a scientific background. I'm comfortable in that arena, and I can explain what I do in mechanistic terms that are perfectly in alignment with known neuroscience. The techniques have not been adopted yet by the mainstream. They're very cutting edge, but I understand the mechanism, and I can explain it to people. I could explain it to a psychologist or a psychiatrist as well in scientific terms. So all of the paranormal things have a logical scientific basis. They're real. They're various types of energetic phenomena. And it's just we don't understand certain types of energy yet that leaves them in this mysterious category.
Exactly.
But everything is going to be understood one day. You know, at least much, much better than we know it right now.
Yeah, and this session perhaps will help people to understand the aspect of channeling and how to connect with the higher self, because this for me is like an example, not to just myself, but to others, maybe to learn from it something, to get something out of it.
Yeah.
A good experience.
And the thing that I would point out for those who are going to watch this is that what you and I are doing, and you talking to the higher self and the higher self coming through me, Each and every one of them can do. They can talk to the higher self. They can ask things and make requests of the higher self. They can ask the higher self to help guide them and give them some information, give them inspiration, give them hints, send them messages. They may not be able to hear the higher self talking back to them. Most likely they won't, unless they're already a channeler. You know, that's the typical human experience. You're kind of closed off and you don't hear the divine voices. But that doesn't mean they can't act on their end to request things and to ask for help, because again, that's key. Mm-hmm. So they could do at least the personal half of the conversation. Exactly. And then trust and believe that something good will happen, and it will.
Yeah. I've heard my higher self talking to myself, because I said, what kind of questions should I ask in the channeling session with Karl? And my higher self said, this. She gave me a huge list. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll go with it. Yeah. So I could hear my higher self in a female voice talking to me and saying, well, you had this person come in, Wernher von Braun and Nikola Tesla. So include that in your questions, because that's important, as it was part of your 16 back in the space program. So I just included that in and listened to the higher self, because I trust in my higher self to do that. So, you know.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, you're extraordinary in your capabilities. So, but people, I can assure, can get through. They will be heard. Even if they don't sense any reply, it's okay. Most people don't get any reply when they talk to Creator, if they're doing a prayer, if they're religious, for example, or spiritual, and they're reaching out to Source or the highest power of the universe, whatever they think of as that being or consciousness. But I can tell you there's tons of healers doing things like DNA theta healing, who are taught to talk with Creator to make requests for all the healing steps and witness it. And if you start doing that, you will start getting feedback from Creator. Mm-hmm. And you'll get little things, little messages and little visions of things, or sense things with your body if you're more kinesthetic. That's God talking to you. And people, you know, without having expectation that it's possible, will find that it starts happening. Why? Because they want it to, and they're asking, and they're opening themselves to allow it. And they're just building the expectation up enough that that can happen.
Yeah, it's happened to me too. I've seen a few people's individuals auric field, and I call it just being medical intuitive, and seeing what's out of alignment, out of balance. And then I say, well, how have you been feeling? Like, how are your eyes doing? And then I'll just ask that, and if they say, oh yeah, there's this going on, and then I'll get into a conversation with them with what I've seen, if they're open to it. So it's
excellent.
I believe in the Creator, in the Source, and I believe we're connected with the divine realms and the universe. So to me, if I get something, if I get a message from any of them, I'll go with it, because to me that's normal and comfortable.
Well, people just have no clue about what's possible. Most people. And people who do a little intuitive sensing become believers because they see it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So those who are still kind of shut down, you know, I feel for them, because I was there once. And I always kind of believed in ASP. I never thought I'd be able to do it. So here I am now. This is what I do for a living largely. I do mostly intuitive work of various kinds. So anything is possible. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we're not able to do that routinely, all of us, is no accident. And the fact that it's being poo-pooed by science and so forth is no accident. That is all deliberate. There's a deliberate suppression of awareness. So the scientists are being suppressed in their thoughts. This is a thought control, a mind control program to keep them focused away from any alternative explanation for the unusual and to not explore the unusual.
Mm-hmm.
They just dismiss it because they're programmed to do that. So that's why they can all believe in evolution, even though there's tons of science showing evolution couldn't possibly explain the amazing intricacy and variety of species.
Mm-hmm.
And how they've all sprouted and in different times and places, and sometimes multiple places with very similar sorts of phenomena and capabilities that can't be linked together as like a chain of events, like an evolutionary transmutation from one to another. They're just independently these highly improbable things just popping up again and again. So the data are all there. I put together a science presentation about this for a meetup group I have, and it's just amazing. And for the longest time, I just didn't understand why the scientists are so pig-headed and unable to see their own data.
Yeah.
Now I understand it. They're being held down. It's an active intervention and suppression. So I can say that in front of your audience, I think, because your people know about a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes to hold humanity back, and that's part of it.
Yeah, and
so one more example.
Yeah, some of my audience just is looking for information as well. They might know and might not know about it, but they're open. They're willing to be a little open-minded and to explore it. So I do have two types of audience: the ones that are really into this and already know, and some new ones just that are coming in, and it's a good way to explore what's out there. And I like to research stuff too and figure out, well, why can I do this now? I couldn't do it before. Like, what's behind all of this? To have an open mind to exploring the possibilities without bias or judgment.
Well, the reality of things is much more wondrous and exciting than people might imagine. Everything really is a miracle. It really is. The way the universe works. And the way we operate, we kind of take it so for granted because we're so used to seeing people we can talk to and hang out with and do all these nice things with. But we're all little miracles, each in our own way, what it represents in terms of changing energy into a sentient being.
Mm-hmm.
That's something science is striving to do, and they'll get pretty good at it, but they'll never create a soul. So there you go.
Yep. And I sometimes see outside of the physical, I see other beings, spirits, outside of myself, ETs, and I talk to them. Sometimes I'll have a physical conversation. I'll be talking to somebody who's invisible, and somebody else will come up and say, who are you talking to? And I'll say, there's somebody with me right now, near me. We're having a spiritual conversation. And they're like, oh, can you tell me about it? Because that sounds interesting. So even non-believers, they'll just like, you're doing something interesting. Tell me, what is it? Even if they don't believe, they still want to hear what's going on. Like, why is she talking to somebody who's not there? So it's a curiosity that people have. All of us have this curiosity about stuff. Even if we're non-believers, we still want to know, what is it? Why are you doing that? So it's pretty fantastic to me.
Yes, indeed, it is. And you're blessed in having this range of sensing because it shows you an aspect of life that most people can't experience. They may have an inkling that there's something going on, and they may have a sense that, I think this could be true, but they don't experience it themselves. And it's hard when that's so.
Yeah.
And it cuts them out of the loop in a sense. So.
And I didn't always have these sensing abilities to see outside myself. It's just the last 4 or 5 years that I've started experiencing this. So for me, just keeping an open mind and just allowing it to grow as it grows and not hurrying it up, not suppressing it. Just letting it go where it should and how it should grow on its own. No pressure.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah. So how does your channeling work? Like, how do you, when you start the session, what do you tell people about this?
Well, it basically is a divinely supported and engineered and directed mechanism. I go to creator of all it is, and well, first of all, I have a set routine to establish safety for myself, whoever I'm working with, for the duration of the session, so that it's protected from any outside interference. Very important. Many psychics don't do this. You need to protect yourself, even if you meditate, because you're making yourself open. You're making yourself vulnerable. You wouldn't open your front door at 2 o'clock in the morning and call out and see if anyone can bring you some useful information about X, Y, or Z. I mean, you wouldn't do that. But when you meditate and you want to reach a higher realm and get some feedback about something or see something, you might have somebody rush in you don't want to have anything to do with, and they will. So you need to know that you have to ask for safety and support when you do intuitive work. So I'm not here to add a lot of fear to people's day, and I apologize in advance but I've learned this the hard way, and I know a lot of people who end up involved with negative beings of all kinds. And what I've been told is that more than 90% of channelers are not talking to who they think they are. They've allowed inadvertently an imposter to come and talk to them. And that imposter will play any role that they want. It'll be a little kid, it'll be a famous figure, it'll be an archangel, whomever. These are typically extraterrestrial psychics. And this is deliberate too. They're trying to subvert the light workers, because the light workers, ironically, are the only source of danger to them. Mm-hmm. They have the government and the military in their pocket already in most of the society through mind control. The light workers have escaped, many of them, so far, from a lot of the suppression, and that's why they're able to do their intuitive stuff. Mm-hmm. But they're not invulnerable to being misled by an outside voice. They just sense or perceive, or they hear it in their head or whatever, and their guard isn't up, so they know how to, the imposters know how to send love feelings and send encouragement, to talk the talk, to make a good story. They're here to help, and yes, this is, Archangel Michael, or, this is Sananda, or whatever. And the psychic or channeler naturally is excited and thrilled, and they feel the sense of awe within them that's imparted, impulsed into them, and they're hooked. And once they go down that path, it's very hard to get back sometimes. So this is what's going on. So you go on the internet and look at all these channelers, most of them are being misled, as are the people listening. It's not to say you'll easily see flaws, because most of the time they will be telling truths. They'll be describing things accurately. It's just occasionally they'll be sprinkled in some disinformation for various purposes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes to lead someone along and keep them talking to the ETs and not the true source. So you'll never get a call to action. You'll never get a real suggestion from them of something you can do specifically to help yourself. There'll be very minimal kinds of suggestion. There's a lot of this going on. A lot of the spiritual people are being subjugated. So there's a sort of a happy talk community. All you need to do is be positive and work on your manifesting, and everything's going to be wonderful. It's all coming, and we're all going to ascend. And what it does is it keeps everyone complacent. So they're spectators now. They're waiting for the big ascension to happen, and they know that the divine realm is going to take care of everything. Or some people are told that ETs are going to come in and rescue us. Or there'll be a second coming. It depends on the belief system of the audience. They'll use any trick, consonant with the person's belief systems.
And I've heard that love will save the day and trust everything with your heart. I believe that's true, but use your common sense to think about whose love is coming in and who are you giving your love to as well, because it could be a false love.
Exactly. And this is a good example of how they use imposters, because they'll talk about love all day long. They'll give you a tutorial on love that'll just blow you away, because they know how to do that. They have all the boilerplate down. They can talk all day long about wonderful things, spiritual things, give you all sorts of encouragement and flatter. And then they might start dropping in that, well, you're really a famous person, and that's why, you're having such good luck in getting this information. And they'll tell you were some famous individual that they know psychically you resonate with. And then, wow, then you can start going and talking how you were this person or that person in past lives. And eventually it gets to an extreme that begins to look kind of ridiculous. And that's what they're after. That someday it'll all blow up, and then you'll be left shattered and lose your confidence totally in your ability to do anything.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of games that they play. But love is important. Love is the power of the universe, and it is the essence of the divine. So that is a truism. But it's not only supposed to be us and our love. We need to partner with the divine and be on Creator's wavelength through love and holding loving kindness in our hearts, but invite the divine realm as well to come and be with us and be a part of a process of upliftment personally, for our loved ones, and for the broader society as a whole. That you won't typically hear from them, because that's what they're trying to subvert. They're trying to keep you just focused on yourself, or feeling you're still limited in some way because you haven't thought about being a creative change agent as an extension of the divine, directly partnering with them in a conscious way, even not maybe perceiving the interaction intuitively, but wishing that and desiring that and setting that intention. Very few people are talking about that sort of active interplay.
Oh, I definitely wanted to talk about that, because there's self-love and respect for yourself, but there's also respecting others and loving others and treating them with kindness, compassion, and understanding. Just not just looking out for yourself, but helping others in the best way you can. That's for the highest good of others. And sometimes, you'll have to back off and not help if they don't want your help, but to be open-minded to that, to not just thinking of yourself, but thinking of others. Even sending a prayer or, sending a good healing thought if the person is open to it. If it's for the highest good.
Well, what I have learned to do is to focus those intentions through the divine realm again. Because the divine realm knows what to do with it. And they can also amplify it on its way to the person. So this is something, it's a little complicated. I don't want to get a big long diversion here, but there's two ways to go about healing and helping. One is to do it yourself with your own energy. Another is to do it in partnership and through the divine realm primarily. And the latter has some real advantages. For one thing, it's more powerful. I mean, who has greater light, you or Creator?
Both.
Well, you both have light, but who has greater light?
I'd say Source.
Yes, you would be right. So if you ask Source to work with you to bring good for someone and do it through Source, Source will have the full wisdom to see all the possibilities and all the pitfalls. And Source will negotiate, guess what, with the higher self of the person for permission before doing anything. So some things might be agreed to, others are not. If you send your energy into someone because you want to heal them, for example, you're violating their free will. Sorry, you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're uninvited. And even if consciously the person wants your help, their conscious self might not know what's highest and best truly for them in terms of their soul journey, their soul purpose for being here, what they need to experience, and so forth. There may be things they don't understand going on behind the causes and the mechanism of their discord in the body. And it may be a higher level problem than you typically see for a sufferer with that condition. And there are nuances and complications and so on. So if you have the divine realm come in to work with you, use your intention, but then they're the surgeon,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get better results. So that's my philosophy and how I go about my work. Because I started down a path where I was doing spirit releasement first in my intuitive work. And then I thought, well, if I can see spirits in a person, maybe I can see their physical maladies. So I started looking, and I could. And just by setting the intention, it's like turning to a different channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see what's on that channel. So I would look for physical problems and begin to diagnose things in people. And I thought, finally down the line, it dawned on me, well, if I could see it, maybe I can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
We started fixing things, and I would see them change, and I would get some feedback that I was able to do some things. But then I had a wake-up call one day, and I won't give you all the details, but it was one of these things where I was doing something where I shouldn't have done it. And I saw something and told the person, and there was a huge hue and cry, because they didn't even know I could do that. And that wasn't why they were coming to me. And it was a big mess. But I've learned over the years all the ethics about this, and there are a lot of ethical considerations. And one of them is that you can be a bull in a china shop, sending your energy into a person. So I'm not trying to shut down all the healers and discourage them, but you know, if you ask for some divine assistance along the way, they can help to shape and mold your energies and keep them safe, for example. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
They can let you use your energy if you want, but be a backstop,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and save you from harming maybe, you know. So it's like an extra measure of intelligence being brought to bear.
Exactly.
So you can carve out whatever role you want, and they're happy to support you in whatever way. Because they do this all the time with us. They let us have our experience, and they let us stumble and fall, just like we do with infants. They got to learn. And they stay out of the way unless we invite them. But they can come in and help. And it's to our advantage.
Yeah.
For big problems, we need their help. This is what I'm told. We can't do this shift in consciousness on our own. We need them to be assisting us. And because we got big problems we're facing. And so I know people don't want to hear that. And the one thing I would say is this is nothing new. This has been going on for many, many thousands of years. And we're just here at the tail end. But we're getting close to the time when we're going to have that tipping point and things are going to get better in a hurry. It's not going to be tomorrow, but we're working, and the signs are there that we're making advances. And it is all going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
There is no death. There's only life and life beyond life. We are immortal. That's the way it is. So you're all divine beings.
Exactly. We are. And there's so much to explore. I mean, we're here, we're doing this, so we're exploring.
Exactly. We have to come out from under the shadow and learn about the light. It's really kind of that simple.
Exactly. So, can we get into the channeling and do the questions and see what happens?
Absolutely. I would be happy to start that. So
Thank you. And thank you for my higher self for coming in, and I want to know the truth and the honesty, and I'm open.
okay, just give me a couple of minutes to get everything prepared.
Mm-hmm.
This is your higher self speaking.
Thank you so much for coming in and for being able to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
You are most welcome. We, as you know, are your best ally and best friend.
Is it okay that I start asking the questions?
Yes, proceed.
I was in contact with an ICC asset named Serena the Overseer on the planet Pluto. She told me about a project called Lazarus on Pluto that is the ICC that they're working on in their lab. So what is this project and why did Serena tell me about it?
This is yet another false front. It is another make work project and was yet another training exercise. And this has no true purpose of great value other than as training for the humans being groomed for various uses as operatives. So there is no value in exploring this further. This is solely a concoction by the reptilians to give you another use of your skills in employing them in a novel environment as a training and feedback exercise for them as well to see how you do. And this is a kind of simulation. And they have many installations of this kind where you can be brought in and asked to carry out certain duties to see how you perform. And this looks like it's real and is important, but is all a simulation in a certain sense. So this is more manipulation and misguided and misinforming of the trainee.
I had been told by Serena that the Lazarus technology is sort of like a viewing glass technology, so you can view events backwards in time, in the present, and also in the future time frame, and that this technology had been originally a prototype created by Nikola Tesla, and that the ICC were still working to perfect this technology. Is there any truth to that?
This is a blending of falsehoods that appeals to your mind because it seems to be rooted again in a human extraterrestrial cooperation with the emphasis on the human part. This is all extraterrestrial technology, and the incorporation of Tesla as a figure was again a technique they use time and time again to create in the mind of the human being subjugated and groomed reassurance that they are among many lofty figures who have come before them and cooperated in a similar fashion and gained much through the interchange and the cooperative endeavor. But this was all a disinformation exercise designed to further increase your complacency, give you some rewards in experiencing something new and different and quite exciting, but in the end would serve to draw you in further and make you more and more controllable by them and not able to think for yourself. The ability to look into the past and future is a very well-established technology available to the reptilians already. They do not need human help.
I have had various age regression processes done on my body when in the SSP. How did those age regression processes work? What was the technology involved, and how were the age regression steps done?
This is something that has potential for misuse, and so we do not wish to add to human storehouse of mind manipulation technology. But the truth of things is that the human has been engineered to have the deep recesses of the mind below conscious awareness, as well as the past history through the deep Akashic records. And because of this state of affairs, there need to be extraordinary means employed to reach deeper and to have awareness brought to the conscious level. So this is what you experienced in action as they were curious about you in wanting to see what you would be able to access and what you would not. And so this was all part of a process of obtaining feedback about how you function and what makes you tick. The age regression is a process that has a number of utilities, and it serves as a review of memory milestone markers, so to speak, and will teach the observer a great deal about the capability of the person to master and control their own mind and the reach of their own memory.
How many times did the ICC and the SSP programs age regress me, and did this cause any neurological and physical damage in my body?
The regressions were done multiple times, and the consequences to the body are not physical, they are emotional. The body is capable of tremendous healing and complete healing for the most part. The mind is a different matter because the integration of memory involves the capturing of discord as a functional consequence of what is perceived along the way. And this is part of the mechanism of karma itself, to recreate the consequences of an event the person experiences, so that if they cause harm to someone or are harmed, the memory will carry with it an emotional temperature, an emotional signature, representing the level to which it departs from the true spiritual alignment. And so there may be, along with the memory trace that is stored, a strong feeling of guilt or shame or fear, or there may be a tremendous terror associated if the person were victimized. These serve a useful function in assigning the importance and nature of the memory, and have many times a karmic consequence as well, that on recall of the memory through regression, there will be a recreation and expression of the emotional meaning. And this serves to remind the self about the consequences of what they experienced. The value is to serve as a warning and as a life lesson in action by reinstilling much of the emotional consequences of a past event. And so the person may be reharmed, or at a minimum is reminded of what took place, and then has an opportunity to act on that information in a way to let themselves recover more fully, or heal, or do some act of contrition to rebalance the karmic obligation or debt and make restitution in some way, and at a minimum to realize oneself that there has been a harm committed and that there needs to be a rethinking of one's conduct and so forth. So the apparatus that is tapped into has many values, but the level of pain involved with many of the actions involving the extraterrestrials is such that there is much wounding and much harm done at the same time. So this is what we were referring to in discussing the need to do further personal healing work to resolve some of the deep trauma, because this is now imprinted within your memory bank and an integral part of who you are at this point. This is not a huge concern, but it is something that is healable and can be resolved and would be worthwhile.
What does the age regression technology look like physically, and what are the steps in the technology being implemented when age regressing somebody back to their young stage from an old stage?
This is done through a kind of impinging on your consciousness, and it is done through two different means. It can be done through the non-local consciousness of an extraterrestrial themselves, or it can be done through a kind of energy that is focused to represent consciousness and will begin to interact much as someone conversing with the person. But it is an artificial consciousness that is reaching out and impinging. So this is a quite sophisticated technology that is used for manipulation and control, and has no positive benefits in the implementation as done by the extraterrestrials. There are ways that reaching the deep levels of the mind could be useful to human practitioners in the fields of psychology and psychiatry, but they are not in a position to embrace these concepts, let alone conceive of such technologies.
During my time as an asset with the ICC, I was given drug serums to prevent me from aging and to also reverse my aging process so I would remain in my mid-20s age-wise. Why were these age-blocking drug serums given to me to keep me being at a young age in the ICC programs?
The advantage of keeping you young physically is to increase your utility and value to them. If you age out of the program, their investment in you is lost. So first and foremost, the ability to slow aging keeps you functioning, and you become, in effect, a longer lasting and more reliable machine to be employed and manipulated for their purposes and their agenda. So it has an obvious advantage to them to be able to keep you rejuvenated, so to speak, and therefore extend your shelf life, much as one wants to have a long-lived appliance and not have to replace it when you're used to how it works, and it has become a trusted instrument and has utility.
While being an ICC asset, my DNA was often changed to physically become a human-looking extraterrestrial of different species origins. Why did I need to change into various different extraterrestrials? What was the purpose of me needing to look physically not human?
This, as you know, is a well-developed attribute of the reptilian race. They are shapeshifters, and this they can do readily and find advantageous for all sorts of scenarios where they can be incognito and do things surreptitiously. And so this is a further extension of the technological manipulation of individuals within the program you joined to begin to impart this capability to their human counterpart and extend their reach by making them more flexible in the roles they could play and the places they could fit in by changing their outward appearance. So this was essentially a weapons program, pure and simple, to make you a human weapon, much like the human guided torpedoes in the Japanese submarines. This is a more sophisticated technological achievement to begin to instill the shape-shifting capability within the human. This is something that is inherently possible within human DNA and has been done over the eons in the past by various human beings who have tapped into this capability. So this is not so far-fetched a notion as some who hear these words might think, and not the tremendous tour de force that would seem daunting even to advanced extraterrestrials. The advanced technology is courtesy of Creator in providing such flexibility within the life form to manifest in various ways and to have many capabilities not necessarily utilized within a particular organism, but available in certain special circumstances for a particular purpose. So this was simply being exploited by the reptilians to give you this capability to extend your reach and usefulness.
I remember being abducted by several groups of reptilians and a harvester race being as a child. My autoimmune and nervous systems were damaged during these abductions. Why did the reptilians and harvester race being abduct me and cause damage to my body?
This was at a stage when they were just beginning to sort things out and size you up, so to speak. And this was a side effect of what they were doing to begin a process of manipulation and assessment of your physical capabilities. And so they were doing something else in addition as part of an experiment to do a DNA manipulation. And at that point, you were not the high value subject you became to be. And so they did a manipulation that caused a negative consequence within your physical body as part of an experiment to couple this alteration with other things they were attempting to achieve all at once to speed up the process of undermining the human race on a large scale. So this was a sort of bio-warfare exercise for them, and you were simply a victim at that point.
I remember that the reptilians had injected me with 30,000 nanite material technology, nanomachines, and it infected my uterus and my cervix. My uterus and cervix were removed. So has this nanite technology been totally removed as well from my body?
This has been done as an extension of the request for the alien footprint to be expunged. And so this is an example of how the divine realm can extend the human request even to some things beyond their awareness. It helps to have knowledge and to come forward with specific requests. But once you are in the neighborhood, so to speak, this allows the foot in the door for the divine realm to be more thorough on your behalf and even beyond what you might perceive as a part of the problem or an aspect that is beyond your actual awareness or understanding. So, for example, many times there are implants made, but the person may as well be ingesting a kind of nanotechnological device or devices. And these are surreptitiously delivered transducers of signaling to do mind control manipulation. And so with a request to remove alien implants, the divine realm therefore has the discretion based on the human request coming from the human side to remove these nanotechnologies as well. And so this was done on your request in a general way to be out from under the manipulation and suppression and to remove their doings and their alteration of you.
I remember participating in 2 mini CERN programs near the Sierra Madre Mountains in secret underground bases located in the United States. These were time-traveling experiments run by Paul Cerin and the Monarch Solutions Company. Why was I placed in these programs in the underground secret bases when I was a teenager?
This again was part of your training and grooming for an operative of advanced reach and capability. By exposing you to such operations, you became comfortable moving into new and novel environments with new kinds of technological undertakings and operations. And the purpose was to acclimate you to be involved in such things. And so that if you were needed to be a weapon of destruction, you would have no trouble in such a setting to make an entry seemingly as an innocuous, but with a mission to do a kind of disruption or to kill someone and target them. And so the more you knew about technology, the more you were comfortable in many novel settings, the more useful you would be to be accepting of such environments and operate with confidence and reliability. So the analogy we would make would be to the James Bond of the movie series as a double agent who could be calm, cool, and collected in any kind of setting, masquerading as a world traveler and an operator with tremendous reach, but always had many skills to call on and could do clandestine work in a very clever way, including a command of exotic weaponry when needed and so forth. So this is the intention of the training you were subjected to.
These CERN programs in the Sierra Madre Mountains, they involve time travel and experiments being done on people. How was I involved in the time travel experiments? What did I do while under these programs?
You were used as a guinea pig and also for training purposes, so you would be comfortable in partaking of a mission where time travel was needed. This was the process of familiarization so that you would readily forge ahead without concern or fear, much in the same way that an advanced warrior in human terms would have many opportunities to train as a parachutist before they were asked to jump out of an airplane in the dead of night over strange terrain. That would be quite daunting as a first foray into such an experience. It is the training that is key to familiarize the person, to show them that it can be done and be done without adverse consequences to the self. And then it becomes not only second nature, but a point of pride to be a part of such an activity and to master it. And so that was the purpose for you in particular as an individual. The experimentation was done as a means of collecting human beings for other reasons and other dark purposes. So this was a very sinister operation, not at all being done for human betterment or benefit. You were luckily just exposed enough for the experiencing for purposes of acclimation, but not as a victim for the more sinister subjugation and manipulation and ultimately extermination of human beings.
While being trained in these two CERN programs to acclimate myself with various weapons and to be a weapon, how did those physical attributes of being a weapon manifest in me in these programs?
The things you did were done in various states of a kind of suspension of belief. So it is somewhat like a trance state, a waking hypnotic state, where the mind is compartmentalized in a fashion that separates you from concerns about moral consequences, about personal risk and hazard, and about the broader picture, your future, and your concern for your personal development and enjoyment and so forth. You become solely functioning in the moment as an instrument being directed. And so this was, again, an awareness of the intensive training to which you were subjected, to be involved with all sorts of militaristic operations, hardware, instrumentation, and physical manipulations that would make you ready for anything, in a sense, to be exploited and used as an advanced weapon yourself.
Does the SSP or the ICC programs still take me as an active asset to participate in secret missions or program experiments?
This is not happening. You are free of their grip. So this is being reinforced by the divine realm, and you have escaped their control in this way. If that were not so, you would not be here today having this conversation. This is getting too close to the truth for their level of toleration. They are not using you for disinformation. So the messages coming through for you here are coming through the divine realm and for a divine purpose, not further manipulation, subjugation, or propaganda purposes for you in your control or to mislead anyone else listening to these words, but rather to inform and give them insight about what can happen and what is at stake in becoming more aware and taking action to provide opposition to this manipulation. So you are in the clear now, and you have been rescued. This is no small feat and will in fact be so going forward. You are under watch and you are being given special protections. And that will remain so as long as you desire it to be so.
Why did I incarnate on Earth in this lifetime? Was there any specific reason why I decided to come to Earth?
You are here to serve the light, and it is through providing a passageway for truth to come forward. Everything that you have done has been foreseen, not in precise detail, but in the general outlines. All who incarnate are targeted by dark spirits and by extraterrestrials. All are subjugated to the extent that is possible with the routine means at their disposal. This is done across the board to all of humanity. Those who are not easily manipulated because of their unique characteristics may receive further attention and further more advanced manipulation in an attempt to keep them under control. But this is difficult to do with the large number of human beings involved. And so the extra attention goes to only those who are greater threat. In most cases, the person, because they are disconnected from past memory or an awareness of the divine realm, are really in the dark already and are no threat because they do not realize there is a problem and they do not know about the answer. So we have discussed this problem at length, that you are all being manipulated to varying degrees. You are all subjugated and suppressed in being disconnected from awareness of who you truly are, your past origins, and your link to divinity. And you are completely unaware that the answer must come through and by the light and working with the light. Your governments will not help you. Your military will not help you. Your intelligence apparatus has already been commandeered for dark purposes and no longer serves your own government. The way to your future is to overthrow the suppression by enlisting the divine realm through conscious choice. This has not been shown to you before and is an automatic obstacle because the culture has suppressed this awareness. This is the reason all through history healers have been sought out and killed. Anyone with a paranormal capability and reach has been suppressed, sought out, and killed. And the reason is they do not want people with a higher awareness out and about who can stumble on the truth and begin to sound the alarm. The great awakening of many, many individuals intuitively is becoming the major threat for the alliance between the dark spirit realm and the extraterrestrials. And so they are targeting people like you to co-opt them by bringing them into the fold and serving them in some way. That is one major technique they use. And they do many, many other things as well to create problems for those with awareness. Most times, the highly intuitive are overwhelmed with attacks from dark spirits, and they become unbalanced through the tremendous fear created and become even non-functioning and are all considered mentally imbalanced and unsafe to have out and about in the community and are institutionalized. So there are many means used to subjugate human beings, but there is a path to freedom here for each and every person. All can be rescued, all can be healed. This must be chosen by each one of you hearing these words to decide where you stand, where you wish to be, where you want to go, and what you are willing to do to make that happen. It is all in your hands, and you will be supported in your desires if you turn to the divine realm for assistance with this. If you trust in the extraterrestrials, you will be disappointed. They are not working for you. The benevolent extraterrestrials are outside of Earth plane and will not be able to come to your direct aid. This is a false promise as well, and is a great disappointment for many to hear. But this is and remains a human problem that must be solved by human. We are assisting you and helping you with the knowledge and insight and inner inspiration so that you regain your human capability of a divine extension. And as that unfolds and strengthens, your ability will only grow. And there is much more you can do than you can imagine at the moment. But it has to start somewhere, and the choice must be with you to take the first step.
I remember being a star traveler with many different psychic abilities, and I remember having many different lifetimes on Mars, Atlantis on Earth, and being a benevolent extraterrestrial being, going between various planets, helping to do ascension and to create ascension. Is there any truth to that remembrance?
Yes, this is the normal way of things. There is a process of ascension underway for all in the universe. This is Creator's plan to have a long cycle of experiencing and learning and growth. This serves two purposes. It gives feedback to Creator about the consequences of choices in Creator's design, but it gives each extension of Creator having an individual awareness and experiencing, which is the case of all visible in the universe, all having consciousness, the inanimate as well as animate creations. The ability to have feedback about their experiencing, and in response to the capability of their consciousness to impinge on their environment and to make things happen. So this is true of the rocks, which may cause an earthquake to take place or a canyon to form. It is the consciousness of the rocks bringing this about, and the same is true of the animal kingdoms and plant realm and even microbial life. They have consciousness that influences their environment. The reach of human is the greatest of all, being an extension of a high aspect of the divine, with the divine reach of a creator inherent within their being. So the process of ascension is the learning and growth track that all goes through and experiences. This is done by the individual organisms on an individual basis and as a collective, and also by the various planetary bodies and various astral creations, various forms of stars and other objects in the universe existing of quantum energies alone, or combinations in the active sense of things like black holes. The quantum is interwoven with the visible seeming matter, all of which of course is energy, but all are involved in a process of change and growth that is one of increasing diversity and intricacy and range of capabilities, starting with the simple and moving to the more profound. So you have been a witness and participant and a facilitator in bringing energies to many systems, in learning personally about the plan of Creator, and also to have your experiences in interfacing with the universe in many settings as a creator yourself. This is part of the divine process of training and grooming for greater things. All of humanity is on this track and being groomed and prepared for higher levels of functioning throughout the universe. And this will come with the fuller learning of dealing with the negativity posed by the potential inherent in the duality of free will and free agency, having the potential for evil as well as good. So this is your latest stopping place and seeing the ascension of the earth in process from an early stage, and we'll see it through to the next stage as well. And this is just the order of things. But this particular ascension is the greatest of all in many ways, because the end product will be a planet and a group of beings with free will and free agency to create on a scale never happening before. This carries with it tremendous responsibility and is the reason you are going through this trial by fire, so to speak. So you are truly ready in knowing how to avoid the pitfalls and temptations to exploit others to serve the self above others and fall prey to the desires for control and power and exaltation of the ego and so forth. Those human foibles must be surmounted through learning and transcendence and the rich variety of possibilities can become yours, free from fear, free from worry or lack or privation. You will have a life of joy and abundance, and this will be guaranteed once the learning has reached the stage allowing this transformation.
May I please ask for some healing from my higher self to remove the migraines, seizures, eye problems, light sensitivity, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis in my endocrine system, if that is for the highest good of me?
Yes, we will work on this on your behalf. The conditions you describe are a karmic consequence of some of the difficulties you have been reviewing here. And so this is an ordinary legacy of past trauma playing out in the body still. So this is an example of the need for healing and why it is so widespread. Illness is almost entirely due to karma, the negative experiencing of discord and the absence of light in some way and the absence of love in some way. And the wounding that results carries forward and will continue to resonate and will manifest even multiple lifetimes later in physical maladies. And so these are essentially merely the demonstration of past challenges that were very, very difficult and harsh. And all are deserving of a purple heart, so to speak, for all our war wounds, as you are all warriors for the light who are here. And so you come by these by virtue of your great determination and valor in taking on the challenge to surmount the great difficulties that have plagued humanity for so long. But you are winning, and the light is winning alongside you. And the war has been worth it. And you will enjoy the fruit of all you have done.
I'm choosing to let go of the karmic trauma from the secret space programs, the ICC, as well as the physical and emotional pain from participating in these programs. Can my higher self help me to continue to do that?
Yes, as you ask in this way, we can engage in a program of healing assistance on an ongoing basis. And you see, this is a good illustration of the way things operate with you having free will and free agency. We have to honor your intentions from moment to moment. If you reach out to the divine with a prayer, for example, and ask for something, and then continue with your day, and then the next day dawns and the day thereafter and so on, your request begins to fade because you are not maintaining it in your awareness or your intention. And so it has to be taken as a one-time request for perhaps a small interval of benefit only, which is quite different than what you have just requested, to engage in healing and see it to a conclusion. And so that requires a long-term proposition in most cases. And the reason for this is the vast complexity and interdigitation of so many experiences by not only you yourself, but all who have influenced you, who in turn were influenced by others to cause their impact on you, in an almost endless chain of events that must, in some cases, be disentangled to accomplish the healing. So these are in some ways challenging even for us, at least in terms of the level of complexity they represent, being larger than human scale. This is not that they are impossible, only that they take extra dedication and effort to achieve, and so are rewarded in proportion to the earnestness and level of desire of the requester. And as with all requests to the divine realm, there must also be a belief in place and a willingness to allow the healing to occur. And any self-doubts about the possibility it can happen, or fears that this may be undeserved, may limit what is possible. In your case, there are relatively few such obstacles, and so this will be more doable than for most. But we are using this as an opportunity for teaching, and so you need not be overly concerned here about your request and its feasibility. There are still some things you may need to do personally to achieve the fullest degree of benefit, but that is fairly typical as well. And it is because you own who you are and you are still in control. No one can harm a person greater than they can harm themselves. So they have quite a degree of control from moment to moment about what can happen and what can be changed. So this is the reason you need to heal some things directly within yourself by participating in a process. It is that exercising the reach of your power to make it happen that is required for certain things.
Thank you so much. I appreciate my higher self taking the time to speak with me, and for Karl Mollison taking the time to also facilitate this beautiful process and to share this with others. Thank you so much for everyone. Blessings.
Okay, I took that as my cue.
Yeah, thank you, Karl. That was a journey. That was a journey.
It was indeed. Yeah. That was amazing. Um, this is all new for me. I have not studied the details and what people have been describing about all this um, um, activity. And the reason is that I am my own researcher, and I want to do my own exploration and research about the things that I feel I need to know. And I would rather not fill my head with all sorts of information, especially now that I know much of it will be peppered with falsehoods and misleading things designed to take you in a wrong direction. And so it's been very gratifying, actually, for me to have completely independently discovered the existence of dark spirit presence within people and extraterrestrial influence on people and various other things that they can do. The existence of physical implants, the reality of abductions, and so forth. I have seen the evidence directly myself. And that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. It's why I'm talking to you as one of the very strange people from the mainstream perspective, entertaining these seemingly crazy notions that such things are going on. When I started out doing remote spirit releasement work, and I knew that people had seen ETs and I'd seen an extraterrestrial craft, so I believed in them, and I was fortunate. You know, my guides actually made me go outside once at 2 a.m, and I had no real idea why I was doing that, but they were pushing me literally. So I would see this thing, and it woke me up. My gosh, this is true. It's true what these people are saying. So fortunately, I didn't fall into their clutches, but the working with people to remove darkness from them shows me other things that are there because I'm looking. And so I would see that about 4 to 5% of my clients were carrying an alien implant. And the type of implant I was seeing is the kind they implant during an abduction. So if you do the math, that means just in the United States, there have been 12 million of us abducted during our current lifetime at some point. That's a lot of people. And this is going on all around the world.
Yeah.
So,
I knew that I had the Neuralink implants. It's partly nanotechnology, gold fibers in my brain, and I asked for it to be removed from source and for myself to do the healing. And then I discovered I had a white matter lesion in my brain. As a result from that implant removal, there was a physical wound in the brain that I'm working on healing. So it was physical evidence in an MRI. It showed up twice in an MRI, February 10th, 2017, and March 31st, 2017. So it's slowly shrinking after the implants have been removed. Because I was starting to lose memory and cognition of not being able to remember anything, and I have a photographic memory. So I physically scanned myself and I knew that I had these implants, that I had these wounds, that all of it needed to be healed and fixed. I mean, I healed the nanotech that was in my uterus that I was implanted with by the reptilians at an early age. I had the whole uterus removed and cervix, like total hysterectomy, because they were replicating, self-replicating, and I was dissolving them and they kept coming back. So I had to physically remove those 2 organs, and then I started feeling better. But the brain damage from overlayering aspects of all that SSP stuff and trauma and karmic stuff, then I'm like, now I have to work on this too. So it's a layering process of clearing all the chakras. So, I knew I needed help, that I could do some of it myself, but I needed divine guidance and spiritual help and to work with others. And that, and also that this needed to be a lesson of some sort, not to just for myself, but to, I don't mind making this public because it's a lesson to me, and hopefully maybe some other people will see this and it'll help them somehow.
Well, I think you probably had a plan to do this very thing, even to go through what you went through. And I think you were spared some things by the higher self, perhaps. This is my speculation, that, because you don't want to start getting annoyed with them that they put you through this or something. You see what I'm saying? They always use a soft touch,
Yes.
Now that you've been through it, there's no need to look back and point fingers, and that's because one day you'll see the whole picture from a high place and you'll appreciate it all.
Yeah.
But I thought as I started in this role I have now, doing spirit releasement work and emotional healing work with people, I thought of it as just some kind of like a second career, something I just sort of fell into. But I've been told, no, this is why you're here. All that other stuff, all those decades when I was just floundering around doing normal human stuff, was just marking time, getting me ready in other ways to do what I'm doing right now. So even though it's kind of weird and it's got its challenges, it's still important. And I see it now. I still have a hard time believing how much power I might have or not have, but we all can contribute. So I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, and I'm very and it's okay to have this as your career, to have a healing career, because you're helping people in whichever way you can. So those that are saying, hey, a healer shouldn't charge for this, or no, you're here to do your thing, to heal people, and you're doing it through your way, and it supports you and helps other people. I mean, you're not charging me for this session. This is a teaching learning session. So you volunteer and contribute in your own way to people. But what you do with Denny Hunt on Why Is This True, with all those channelings, what you did for me today, you volunteer and contribute in your own way. Your healing career is part of your soul journey. It's part of what you're learning and helping others.
Well, I've explored that very question in some detail because I encountered this quite a bit from my fellow healers, and this is an old notion coming through the ages about it should be totally self-sacrifice and not for gain and so on. And that's rooted in a kind of a divine truth that it shouldn't be done solely for personal gain and for a selfish purpose. But the idea of accepting a payment is perfectly fine. And not only is it okay to charge for healing, but it's necessary because you got to eat.
Yes.
You got to survive. And so and I've been told this directly, if the light workers couldn't charge for their services, the shift in consciousness would fail. Because they got to be out in the trenches and they've got to eat while they're doing it and pay their bills and so on. And so it's no different than any other exchange of energy in life. This is how we do it. We've worked this out to be a financial transaction, rather than an elaborate barter, and how do you barter a healing session for somebody who makes tires or something, You don't need tires, That's the idea of money, is so it has more flexibility.
Yeah, and as long as your healing work is for the highest good and it's actually healing somebody, not hurting somebody, then why not have it as a career? Because we are healers. If it's done for the right purposes, if it helps people and heals them, go for it.
Yeah. Well, and the other aspect to that is that I've also been told again and again, and seen the wisdom of this, that healing, personal healing, is the very best use of your time and money that there is.
Yeah.
Because nothing else has the potential value to you than healing something that's broken, because that can change your entire future destiny. Because of karma, if you have something that happens and you don't heal it, it may come around again.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I've seen this as I've worked on people and looked at their karmic history and issues. I'll see that they have a repeating pattern going sometimes where they've had cancer in 3 lifetimes because they were never able to heal it in any of the lives and heal the circumstances that brought that into flower. So do you want to keep doing that? I don't think so.
No.
And even if you're living a good life right now, the minor things in this life may be just a small manifestation of something that maybe next time will blow up in your face in a big, big way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get off light, sometimes you get pounded, but healing is forever.
Yes.
And since you're immortal, why not heal it now rather than wait 50 lifetimes from now?
True, true. And also, the more you can heal in this lifetime, the less you have to take on the other lifetime. And eventually, you get to the point where your soul has reached its learning potential and you no longer have those lifetimes, lifetime. You're at that higher stage where everything is back together. And your soul doesn't choose to shift off and experience so many things. It's back to full awareness with Source.
Yes. And this is the ascension process.
Yes.
So people think of ascension, okay, I'm going to get ascended. You know, I can't wait. I'm going to get my popcorn ready and get my nice warm blanket, you know, and I'll tune into the spiritual network and watch what happens. You know, it doesn't work that way. It's something that you do yourself and experience individually in your unique way as a being. So the more you contribute to that and fuel it with your participation actively and your intention, the quicker it'll happen. So the more you heal, the more ascension you get accomplished, because that's what it will take. It will take a full healing to be ready for that higher vibrational level.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, just coming to be open-minded to exploring these things, to seeing what's out there. It's been fantastic for me, because if I hadn't done that, I couldn't really deal with any of this that I've remembered from the SSP, the ICC, and, you know, ET abductions. All of it is part of a little puzzle that comes together to like, well, what happened to me? Why did it happen to me? Like, what the heck is this?
Well, this is something that is just part of the makeup of these beings we're in opposition with, and it's how they think. So you see that reflected in human culture. Why do you think human beings, as extensions of the divine, which we are, why are we involved in war after war after war after war? That is the influence that is imparted to us by these dark beings, the meddling spirits who are working against the light, and the extraterrestrials who are warlike and engage in evil.
And meddling with our DNA.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, we've been manipulated big time. And it started with the Anunnaki, and they're still here. They still have designs on us and the planet. And they're allowing the reptilians to come in because they're helping. They themselves want to prevail and kick the Anunnaki out, I think. And then the Greys and their creators are here, and same thing. They have their own personal agendas in this. But they have this loose alliance right now because each one has some things to bring to the party. And so it serves them all collectively to have each one doing their thing in their own way that they can do. And it's all working against us. But we're still holding our own in a basic way, in spite of all of that.
Yeah, and there's this secret space programs, just being aware of all this and adding to it, adding more to the pie,
Yeah.
so to speak, and working with these ETs that are not of the good, not of the light, to that agenda. And they know what's going on, but they still perpetuate that with human abductions, military abductions, done by humans to humans. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is one of their standard things. You know, they have people so subjugated. They're trustees, essentially. They're like trustees in a prison who will march you off to the punishment cell or wherever they want you to go, and they're working for the organization.
yes, the agencies, the
Yeah.
shadow governments. It's like it's a layer, it's a step ladder of levels, up and up and up. How high does it go? Or does
Well,
it end? But like, this has certainly been like an illumination to me of the light, to see what happened to me. Like, I've regained much of the memory of all of the ICC stuff, but I haven't wanted to go into the Dark Fleet stuff, and I still don't, because there's horrors in that, and the higher self said you don't need to go into the Alice in Wonderland deep hole that deep. So
mhm.
it just shows me that my intuition is like, don't go there. You know, there's a certain point where you need to go. Don't go beyond that, because you can get healing with finding out what you already know, adding to that a little bit more to get more perspective and clarity and healing. But you don't need to go unraveling all of that deep stuff.
Yeah, I thought that sounded like good advice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a philosophical debate that is kicked around from time to time about whether there can be fear without memory, and whether there is truly torture if there's no memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is very superficial thinking, of course, because there is an ultimate remembering that we're always capable of through the Akashic records. So this is complete human folly and limited thinking. But it's how some of these darker people think, that if they make something happen and they suppress your memory of it, well, it's really okay because you're not hurt. You know, it's like it didn't happen, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they made you do something reprehensible, but if you don't remember it, you know, there's no real harm done, no foul. And it's not really true, because there's wounds to the soul that happen.
Yes.
So there is much that will need healing and repair for you, and I know you've done a lot yourself, but there's things others can do as well to help assist.
And I've asked for it in this session, so it's
Yes,
because I read your advice in the 8 pages, and you said it's great to ask questions, but make sure you ask for some healing too, so
absolutely,
it's balanced.
absolutely. So when I work with what I would call an ordinary client, you know, not someone with such a high level kind of focus as you have, and being so good at healing and so on already yourself, there's a whole series of goodies that the person can request to improve their connection to their higher self, to enhance their intuitive awareness, to enhance their awareness and interaction with Creator, which is our birthright.
Mm-hmm.
We really should be able to talk to God, each one of us, all day long if we choose, and be answered and hear it and have an interaction. So this is the level of suppression we just take for granted as being normal, and is not. So there are many things like this, and reawakening attributes and talents and skills from prior lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
This can be done,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't be done unilaterally by the divine realm. If you know that's possible and you ask, it might happen. So that's what this process is designed to offer people, things like this, that they might not think of, that and then hear directly from their higher self about what's happening with them and some of the whys and wherefores to some extent, and sometimes it's very helpful when people get an explanation for why something happened.
Exactly.
And sometimes they'll hear something surprising.
Yeah.
And I'll just be kind of amazed because they'll just praise someone to the skies. And of course, I don't know the person from Adam. You know, they're coming, they call me on the phone, they hire me, I do a session. I don't know anything about their pedigree. And suddenly they're being praised as like a tremendous healer, or they've been a great warrior in the past, and they changed the course of human destiny in some way. And I had this happen with a woman. She was a male in that life, a male warrior. But she saved the day. It was like a Samson and Goliath kind of, or a David and Goliath kind of moment, I guess. And so I never know what to expect, but things can just sort of pop up that the person will benefit in hearing because it gives them encouragement in some way, or points them in a certain direction if they start thinking about it.
And as well, you from your other interviews with Denny Hunt, I remember you also bring people into the light. Those who have passed on if they've been stuck somewhere.
Oh my, what a problem that is. I was amazed at this. You know, people think when you die you go to heaven. And of course it used to be you either went to heaven or hell, but now the New Age people are starting to disbelieve in hell because they've been told by advanced spiritual folk that there really isn't a hell. It's a state of mind representing despair and failure and so on, and you're not really assigned there by the deity. You know, it's more like hell on earth, and then we go to heaven as our reward. We get out of here, you know, and it's a good thing. However, there is an in-between place, and the Bible is right about that.
Yes.
That there is it could be likened to purgatory, I guess. And, you know, I'm not a biblical scholar or anything, but just to put it in an understandable framework, it's easy, it's handy to refer to that. This isn't some weird thing that a few of us thought up. You know, this has been awareness all through history that this can happen. Many cultures know they need to save their ancestors sometimes and rescue them and so on. And in fact, the first time I did this was in a workshop on Huna, Hawaiian shamanic healing. And one of the little exercises we did during the course of this class was to rescue an ancestor. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I didn't believe that was needed or possible or whatever. I just kind of went along with it, and you know, and I was just kind of there and lying on the floor and closed my eyes, and we were given the instruction, go out and find an ancestor. And me having intuitive capability, I had no trouble doing that, and I was shocked. And I found my paternal grandmother who'd been dead for 40 years, and she was all huddled over in the dark. And I took her by the hand and took her to some light beings who came and handed her over. That's how they did it. That was my first time. It was a real spirit rescue. So now I do this routinely, and about 1 out of 3 people who die do not make it to the light right away. So this is a real tragedy, and people have no idea that a lot of their loved ones may still be out there trapped. It's not fun. It's not just they get to fly around and watch the Super Bowl floating in the air and visiting you whenever they want and so on. Some can do some of that, but most of them are so impaired, they don't even know where they are. They may not even know they're dead. They may be tumbling in the dark with no sensation, no feeling, no awareness, no sight, no hearing, not able to touch anything. All they have is their thoughts and largely fears now. And they can be tormented by dark spirits and beings that are out there who may pester them and really torment them savagely. This is not pretty, I'm sorry, but no. This is what it's like.
There's
That's,
also soul traps that these programs have in ETs where you think you're going into the light, but you're going into an incarnation you might not want to go into to be reborn again. So there's all kinds of degrees of things out there floating around.
the bottom line is that it never hurts to get some help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible to rescue such beings. And it's not hard to do. It requires human action. Because again, the divine realm has to be on the sidelines until they're invited
Yes.
to participate. Otherwise, we're on our own. We're totally on our own here.
Mm-hmm.
So famous people have met this fate. I've saved many big name people, movie stars, historical figures, people who've been in the news. I just did a spirit rescue for JonBenet Ramsey and Patsy Ramsey. They did not make it to the light, each for their own reasons, because they were unhappy, at the time they died and were impaired. And they ended up earthbound, and they were actually interconnected with their energy, but not aware of one another directly. And they were being tormented and in the dark. So this is terrible, terrible stuff. So I did a rescue for them, got them to the light, and then I subsequently went back and interviewed them, and it was quite fascinating because I learned the scoop about the reasons why all that happened, and some of the interesting dynamics of it.
Because their daughter was murdered, brutally murdered, when she was young, I believe. JonBenet, maybe their daughter was something about a murder or something. Or am I mixing it up with somebody else?
Well, she was murdered. That was the story. JonBenet herself. She was the little girl, the 9-year-old who was murdered.
Yes.
And then they were all pilloried in the press because of the lack of a perpetrator, and the investigation was bungled. Yeah. They quickly came to think the family was responsible, somebody in that family. Mm-hmm. And Patsy herself became the biggest target. There's reasons for it, but I don't want to get into a big discussion of that. But the point is, there's a lot of people like that, personally, at least through the media, who are in that plight. And I guarantee you, many of the people listening to this, their loved ones, some of them, are still out there stuck. Mm-hmm. And the divine realm can't act. They're not allowed. It's still part of human experience. Just like if you got lost in a wilderness somewhere, God will not come down and pluck you out and put you back on familiar territory. You've got to figure out how to make that happen. And this is no different. Until you're in the light, you're having your human experience, good, bad, or otherwise. So if the humans ask, then they will come and help. So this is part of learning the ropes, learning how to interact and get the most assistance in the most intelligible, meaningful way that we can. So that's what I provide, because I know how to go about it. I know how to see if they're there and that the assistance is needed. I know how to bring in the right steps to remove negativity, to do healing requests to raise their vibration so they can interact with the light callers, and then bring the right people down to give them encouragement and so forth. There's a lot of ways that this needs to be done to make it successful.
Exactly, and who you're reaching out to is very important as well in what you said in the beginning of the channeling session. Who's out there listening to your request? How do you tell the difference if it's the divine or if it's the negative side? How do you know? And this channeling it brings into reality, who are you listening to? Who are you calling out to? That's very important because you
Yeah.
said that at the outset of the session. They're all listening, and if you ask for the divine, hopefully you get the divine. If you ask for the negative, you will get the negative.
Well, it's also a function of who you are
Mm-hmm.
and what the state of your inner alignment is with the light,
Mm-hmm.
how much love you're holding in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different factors, your level of belief in yourself, and on and on. It's another example of free will in action. So if you want to talk to, say, an archangel, and you reach out to that archangel, most people could not conceive of the situation where, in doing that, an imposter would be allowed to elbow their way in and pretend to be that archangel. But the divine realm has to let that happen
Yes.
if that's what develops, because those imposters have free will and free agency too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just a human down in the free fire zone.
Yes.
You're in the combat zone. So the opposition is out and about, and they're wily and clever. It's no different than a human con man who pretends to be serving for some charity or something, and they collect money from you, and then they're off and going to a party or going in to get drugs or whatever. They duped you, and it's
Yes.
just the same. The divine realm won't stop that. They won't stop someone acting as an imposter of the divine realm
Mm-hmm.
because it's still down in the earth plane. It's earth business.
Yes.
And that's true for the dark spirits as well as the ETs.
Yep.
They're given free reign, and they will do what they're aligned to do, and it's not something you want. So
No.
we have to be discerning, and we have to be cautious,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be ready to do the very best and be in the best possible condition.
Yeah.
Make only goodness happen. So it's a tall order, as it turns out.
It is, and I've had Zagor, the reptilian insectoid, Dark Fleet representative, come and chat with me. I had Serena, the overseer from the ICC, make contact, and I fully knew these weren't peachy peaches of the good
Yeah.
benevolent
Well,
ETs.
you are gifted in having that discernment, you see, because you can go on YouTube right now. 9 out of 10 channelers, you watch them, and they're talking as, for someone. It might be someone who died that they're channeling, or it might be a divine being,
Mm-hmm.
and ascended master, or whomever. And 9 out of 10 of them are bringing through the voice of an extraterrestrial psychic,
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be that
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
So they were trying to, the beings you're talking about may have been trying to mask their identity, or they may have been hoping to trigger the loyalty pledges you made by revealing who they were and getting you to feel like, oh yeah, I gotta fall in line now.
Yeah.
Fall in behind them, you see. So your situation is a little unique in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many channelers who have a favorite light being that they channel over and over and rely on and come to be good friends with, and would be devastated to learn that it's not who they think it is, but that's mostly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to tell. It
It
really.
is. Yeah. I try not to channel for anybody because I know that there are other beings who've been in contact with me, not for my highest good.
Mhm.
So I know that I was compromised at some point, and I've been working out of it not to be that way, not to be influenced by these programs, not to get sucked in with offers and whatnot, to say no to it because I don't want to be back in that again. I don't want to lower my soul vibration to that level and to that duplicity. So I freely admit, yes, this happened to me. I don't deny any of it because it happened. The memories layered and stacked, the manipulation, it was all there. It's just, I finally decided, why not explore it? It happened, why not explore it and see what more can be figured out from all of this to fill in the
Well,
blanks in some spots.
and it was quite interesting for me to witness this because I was half expecting this would be a big bursting of a balloon for you, that you might have been manipulated to such an extent. This was all an implanted set of memories and so on, and none of it was real, perhaps, or most of it wasn't real, and so on. And I didn't get that at all. This is real stuff happening. And
Um,
it may have been, the purpose might have been masked in some way, in your experiencing of it and kept from you and hidden from you.
yeah,
But, you know, this is stuff they're really doing. So
yeah.
I was fascinated in hearing this come out because I had no preconceived expectations, or I don't have any agenda here in
No.
supporting any part of the information.
Mm-hmm. And I, well, the funny thing is, it all a lot of it happened to me physically. The training on planet, off planet, by ETs, by these military groups, SSP. But they did implant me with implants to monitor me, what they were doing to me, the training, so they could see the training from my head perspective, not just my physical,
Yep,
how I'm reacting.
absolutely.
So physical training, implantation, abduction, military abduction, all there. They went to the ninth degree to have me experience all of it and see how I would react to all of that stuff. And some people cry when they talk to their higher selves. And I just sat there listening and because I couldn't cry because I've remembered a lot of this. So this is like active review for me, a memory review, just to fill in the blanks to make sure, hey, that was not a mind manipulation and an implant of what I think it is or not what I think it is. So it's just more clarity to verify what was and what wasn't, or something in between. And it was not a surprise to me. I just sat there listening with a straight face because I wasn't surprised. I know the duplicity of these programs and some of these ETs. So for me, it was, yes, it's painful, but I didn't cry because I've cried so much already. I just didn't have the tears right now.
Well, and in the grand scheme of things, this is more of a gain than a loss. And this is
Mm-hmm.
hard for us to accept as the one who goes through the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But I do hear this a lot, and yeah, I take it to heart because there is a truth here that nothing is wasted, that
No.
everything serves the soul and serves the soul journey. And in terms of what we're headed for, which is a huge revelation, that this is a new paradigm that's unfolding here. By gosh, we better know how to deal with somebody who gets off track
Mm-hmm.
and see that for what it is and head it off,
Mm-hmm.
or it develops too severely to where you can't get back on track again, because that's what's unfolded here in this first fledgling stage of the human experiment.
Yeah, and sometimes you have physical manifestations of bleed throughs of your memories, what happened to you in these programs. Because I have a closet full of 10 wigs, and I have a closet full of swords, knives, battle axes, and some safes with guns and semi automatic weapons. Like, I fully enacted the training process of these programs in the physicality here in my earlier stages of my early 20s. Like I would put on makeup, I would put on wigs, I would go out and act as somebody else, perform, so to speak. Hey, this person, I know this person, but they didn't realize who I am because they look way different. And then with all that weaponry training, like, came so naturally. So I'm like, this has to come from somewhere else
Yes,
because it's too weird for my personality.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, see, this is the cleverness that they're taking this female, unassuming, non-threatening persona
Mm-hmm.
and bringing out this savage side, on demand,
Mm-hmm.
just like pushing a button. And
Yeah.
so this is what they strive for. So I work with people who have this sort of history on the human side because the human counterpart here has engaged in these sort of activities as well because they take a leaf from their book. A
Yes.
lot of our current technologies are coming from those sources
Yes.
and the nefarious things.
Yeah.
So nanotechnologies that are being used now promoted commercially for sensing of all different sorts of things. And they're going to spread millions of these around the planet so that we can monitor stuff and then eventually control stuff and so on. And it all looks kind of wondrous and amazing and so on. But it has a potential for negative consequences too, like the internet itself has more negative than positive consequences. But that's another story. But I've worked with people who have been involved in mind control programs and experiments done via the intelligence apparatus and the military,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still traumatized, and the memories come up.
Mm-hmm.
They've been subjected to that because I do a lot of memory resolution work. And so, just as one example, I know someone who was in the MK Ultra program back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and recruited as a young girl. Her father was in the military, and they were told they had a special program for advanced training of precocious students. And so a lot of the military families would volunteer their children for this, thinking it was a leg up and a real advantage. And what they were doing is testing people to see their potential for manipulation and to see what other attributes of the mind and so forth they were exhibiting that they could then utilize.
Mm-hmm.
So they got her involved in this training, and the things that happened and they did to her were really ghastly, various types of manipulation. But they would do exercise like getting her to bond to a special teddy bear that she would just love. It would be her transitional object, it would be her best friend, and this love representative. And then they would test her ability to be controlled by telling her to stab her teddy bear with a knife. And things like this. I mean, it's gruesome.
It is. It's
But it was manipulation to twist them and condition them to become a willful agent.
yeah, or
To do
drowning you.
like that.
Continually drowning you, and taking you out so you take a deep breath and back and you go into the water to break you down of feeling any pain at all. That's one of my memories in these programs, that they broke me down so much and rebuilt me back up that I don't feel pain, that I wouldn't feel pain or guilt for what they'd want me to do later. And to this day, I still don't feel pain in my teeth or on my skin. If you stab me, I won't feel the fact that I was stabbed into my hand and that I'm bleeding. I won't even realize that I'm bleeding. If I accidentally nick myself or something, I don't feel that pain until I see the blood. Or you could, like, I've been going to the doctor. All my fillings are done without anesthetic because the anesthetic gives me a toothache or a headache. The drilling in my teeth themselves feels like a nice massage. I've even had my wisdom teeth yanked out without any anesthetic because the anesthetic is more painful than the tooth yanking. So I refuse all medicine because drugs in my system don't work. They make me worse, not better. So it's like conditioning from those programs. Been conditioned not to feel pain and to just disregard it, so I do. Pain to me is nothing. It's just fear factor is there's more emotional fear there than there's pain. That's the pain, the emotional fear factor that I sometimes have. And again, that's part of the conditioning.
Well, it's incredible to hear your story unfold and to know that this is real. And you're not the only one. There are a huge number of people who have been manipulated in all sorts of ways. You got much of the worst that they could dish out.
Oh, there's much worse than that too. There's worse than that even, but I don't want to remember the worst. The funny thing is, I asked him these questions about Paul Cerin and Monarch Solutions Company, and I'd done some research back in early April. There's a video game out by Microsoft called Quantum Break, where Paul Cerin is in there. It's a CERN type of research program from a university that he created, and he runs Monarch Solutions, and they did time travel experiments. It's a video game, and it's also a 4-episode TV miniseries by Microsoft. And I have this in my brain. I have memories of Paul Cerin and memories of Monarch Solutions, of being in these CERN programs somewhere in the United States out by Sierra Madre Mountains. And in this video game, it's a project out in the United States in a small little town somewhere out in the boonies. Go figure. Go figure.
Well, this is an example of art imitating life, not life imitating art. So there are many examples like this, and many of the screenplays are direct manipulation by the darkness to create trust of ETs, for example.
Yes.
To make them look benevolent and benign and a great, exciting new possibility to give humanity a lift and a leg up. And then the opposite, to have fear manipulation, which serves them in other ways. And then there are the screenplays inspired by the light to bring awareness of what can happen when you bump into strangers. So all of that is going on and cascading over us. It's just kind of an amazing thing. But so many of the things in the movies are based on reality.
Yeah.
And many of the people I've interacted with who have a really strange story like yours end up supporting a screenwriter at some point, and then it ends up being in a movie. And people never realize this is something that actually happened to someone. And it's because they're the only ones who will listen and will use the information in some way or another. So it's all taking us to a point where we can begin to get our minds around these possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought it? Like, I have these memories of Paul Cerin, Monarch Solutions, being put into these 2 mini CERN programs in underground bases. I even mapped it out on Google Earth. I put specific target locations. This secret facility was here. The other one was there. I'm like, I was shocked that this is actually, this information, this Paul Cerin character and this Monarch Solutions from my memories is actually in this video game and mini TV series episodes. I'm like, so did somebody put this in my head? Did this really happen to me? Why is it in a Microsoft video game? Of course, we all know Microsoft is a cabal-run agency, so, you know, these programs work together. So who knows?
Well, seeming coincidences can be exploited as well.
Yeah.
To create a alternative explanation.
True.
Or a trivial explanation. So you're just making this up because you somehow ran across this thing and it went into your consciousness and then it came out as a dream and now you think the dream happened and it was all because you happened to see this video game fantasy thing. You see, the skeptic can have a field day with
Yeah,
this story.
sure. For sure
But
they can.
it's just as likely that there was a real place they used for a real purpose with real activities ongoing you were subjected to, for which they put the labels on that would match something in human activity out in the open
Mm-hmm.
to create a disinformation alternative explanation possibility should you ever talk about it.
Yeah, of
And then
course.
look ridiculous. Oh, well, I went to this place and there's a big sign, Disney World out in front, and there was this Epcot Center, and there were all these experiments going on this upper floor, and blah, 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 and you would be seen as a nut. But that's the kind of thing that they could do easily.
Very much so.
To intermix things that just get so fantastic, the whole thing is discredited on its face,
Yeah,
So that's just a speculation.
yeah, of course. And I mean,
But
I'd never heard of this video game and this mini-series until a couple of days ago. I decided to do some cross-matching because I've been writing all my experiences down and talking about them in videos. So when I saw, Paul Sarin, Monarch Solutions, I typed it into internet search, bam, out popped quantum break. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. How the hell do I have Paul Sarin and Monarch Solutions 2 years prior to me looking all this up? How is this in my head? What the hell happened there? Pardon my swearing, but and me mapping this out on a map as well. I'm like, okay, well, this might have some synchronicity. Could have happened. So at this point, I don't really care. It's just, I made a note of it, fine. And I asked it in the questions too, and Higher Self said it was military programming, military training, physical training to toughen me up for these programs. So, it's a circle of exploration. Some people will say I'm a disinformation agent and I'm making all of this up. I really don't care.
well, of course, and that's true for me as well. And I knew that coming in that I might be ending up stepping on some people's toes because I know how this all works.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what they endeavor to bring about. They want people's stories to conflict.
Yeah.
And then they get into finger pointing and fighting among themselves, and it's all about divide and conquer.
Yeah.
This is a standard kind of way of proceeding. It's been time honored, and humans do it as well through infiltration, and having the embedded agent, the double agent, and then everyone's chasing their tail trying to find out who the false one is, and they all end up suspecting one another and nothing ever gets done.
No.
They end up just maligning themselves and taking themselves down.
Yeah.
And that's what the danger is in this. But I don't know how to avoid it entirely because this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That there are many, many voices and they can't all be right. The stories are conflicting in some respects.
Yeah, to me, I just keep an open mind and I explore and I do my own research to see what's what. And I do connect with my higher self and my intuition. If it sounds bullshit to me, I'll just not look at it further into it and just let it go and move on to something else. If it's BS, it's BS. If it's something there, I'll look into it and, do some research. My bullshit barometer is trust no one, explore everything, and research everything. Because I work in a library, so for me, research is my bread and butter. It's literally my job to do the research and check and verify facts. So, and I'm starting to pay more attention to my research as well, what I put my belief systems in, or not put anything into belief system at all, and just, this is what it is, explore it, don't buy into it, because information is floating out there, and
Yeah.
so much of it.
Well, people underestimate the possibilities of intuitive sensing and awareness to bring truth forward. It is much more profound than people might expect.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're used to things like remote viewers making sketches, and they kind of get a pencil drawing with some kind of outline, and you can kind of see it resembles a certain thing and so on. That's a beginning of awareness. But true intuition at the fullest expression is an instant knowing
Mm-hmm.
of everything you need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You just have it. It's boom, it's there.
Yeah.
It comes in all at once, and it can be complete. It doesn't always, but it can be. So that's what you're experiencing when you see something and you just kind of summarily dismiss it. It's because your intuition isn't embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you may hear something and instantly embrace it. And it may be incomplete as to factual detail, but the intuition is already telling you, yeah, this is valid, this is true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge asset. So it's worth cultivating, and it's worth listening.
Yeah. And
But not everyone has the same level of awareness and insight, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And I've tried remote viewing. I just recently did a remote viewing of the Dulce base, underground secret base near New Mexico. And I doodled, whatever. It was a blind. It was a blind RV. I didn't know what I was remote viewing. I just did it. And then I'm like, okay, this looks weird, squarish type of underground base with all this weird technology. Then I went on the internet and I looked it up. I typed in Dulce underground secret base, and bam, there's the exact same outline of the squarish base underground as what I doodled. So it was an interesting experience. Just a map. Somebody found Google image maps of what this thing looks like on the outside, on the surface, and underground somehow. And there it is. 7 different Google images of how it looks. And I'm like, that's the same square shape as what I just doodled in the RV. Okay, some confirmation, some validation perhaps, that what I saw is exactly what was in that RV, and I drew it. Good enough for me, because I researched it. So good enough for me. And I wrote down descriptions of what the heck these things were, because my writing is very bad. It's like a doctor's, so people can hardly read what I write. And when I'm writing, it's like I'm seeing these images flash in my eyes of this RV thing. I'm just writing down, and it's messy.
Well, you're very well spoken, so we'll forgive the writing deficit.
Yeah, that's people are like, I can't read what you just doodled, and I'm like, things are hitting me, flashes of images are hitting me in my face. So excuse me if my writing is not perfect, because I'm trying to draw and I'm trying to write at the same time what I'm seeing from this Dulce base. So forgive me if it looks like chicken scratch.
Well, it's just this is the dilemma of all artists, that the vision is often more elegant and profound than what they can transfer onto a page or a canvas. So that's the essence of the challenge for the artist. That the images may come easily, but then the rendering is the tough part. You got to really work at. So that's a good analogy, I think, to intuitive awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to make sense of it or communicate it in the fullest sense to another person, for example. You know as an intuitive the reality and the truth of it, and it's hard to convey that in the same level of depth and sincerity and valid way to another person. And so
This has been wonderful, and I'll edit it into 2 parts. Split it up so it's not 4 hours, if that's okay with you.
Well, this is for you to do what you wish with, and that was the spirit in which I have participated here, to be of service and to serve you, because I appreciate who you are and what you're all about. I really, really do, and uh, I feel a kinship with you, and um, wish you the very best for all that you do in your future. And I think it's important to do the things you do and to be a part of this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
We're all feeling our way along.
Yes, for sure. And and Werner von Braun spoke to me and said, "Can you put these questions in your session? Because there's something there I need your higher self to say.
Hmm.
I can't say it right now, but your higher self knows of the information and can speak about it. And I know that Werner von Braun is actually on Denny's list for you guys to maybe explore, to do a session about him, because he's got rich info on
Yeah.
Braun."
Well, and the other aspect of this, which is quite fascinating, as I interact with beings in the light, in particular, they are a tremendous source because they're back in light being mode. They're above the fray now. They don't have the human constraints,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't think like a human any longer. So they're free of the corruption and the alteration.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're valid sources of information, unfiltered, unbiased, because they will deal with truth. They
Mm-hmm.
may withhold information for a whole number of reasons: to protect us,
Mm-hmm.
to shield us, to protect others. Maybe they've interacted with, or they have as offspring or colleagues who are still in the physical, and they can't be bringing heat down on them, that sort of thing. There are some who believe in their legacy and they don't want to necessarily come out as having been a total bad guy in their old role. There could be all sorts of things that come to play, but they are reliable as far as it goes. They will not lie, and they will not directly do something to the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a lot to say. And the other thing about it, which makes them particularly valuable and compelling as a resource, they have a karmic stake still in what is continued to unfold since they left.
Yes, for
So if
sure.
they were part of the military or the intelligence community or the government in some way and participated in something that grew into a monster, they have a karmic responsibility and a debt to pay.
Mm.
And one of the ways they can rebalance things and pay that debt is to come forward and help someone like you or me,
Mm-hmm.
insight about what has happened and what it represents, and help give us some guidance and assistance, because that serves to begin to right the wrong they contributed to.
Well, Werner von Braun certainly, he told me, have a go and read this book that I wrote, my earliest one about the space stations and Mars exploration plans, because the ICC used his schematics and plans to make these platform stations.
Hmm.
And he didn't want these things weaponized or whatnot or used for war purposes, and the ICC did it. So, and he told me, hey, there's my original work was published in Collier's magazine in 1950s, and the Mars Project book, my original book that I wrote, was translated into English. So you can verify everything that I've told you. You can verify, go read it physically in the magazine and in the book. So I've been looking to download this old book from the 1960s and these magazines from the 50s, and I found them because
Hmm.
he wanted me to find them. And he's like, I need to say some things. I can't say it through you, and you're only to ask certain things of the higher self when you do the session. But I'd like to come forth and speak in a separate session with, you know, through, do a session with somebody who's a good channeler. So, and Denny's like, and I told this to Denny a few days ago, and then Denny contacted me yesterday and said, Von Braun is on my list. actually. He was on my list already. So I said, that's probably not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So you might want to do a session with Karl and see what happens, or whatever, if it's for the highest good, if it's supposed to happen, could happen. So that was interesting. Just von Braun kind of coming forth and saying, "Hey, I'm here." So, and I'm a good resource if you want to if you want my story more, there's a way to listen and to hear it. So it's incredible.
Well, they are motivated, and they have a stake in this too, because we're all cycling in and out with our service here in multiple lifetimes. So the ones that I'm talking to in the light, one day will be back in the fray. They'll be back in another life go-round, and what they've done in the past will influence that life, for better or worse. And the more they heal, it's the same principle. The more they heal by rebalancing things and bringing in a solution for the discord that was created, their hands and thoughts, the better time they'll have in the future, and the less trouble they'll get into. And so it's all part of the same process of needing to heal as you go, to have the best and earliest graduation.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if you guys will do von Braun or not. It's none of my business. He came through. He wanted to say something in this session, so I leave it up to the universe, and whatever you guys do, you guys will do. I just mentioned it because he wanted his name on the list, so I'm just one little messenger. So.
Well, this is all helpful, you see, because one hand washes the other. We're all benefiting from what we each do, and so the reason I'm talking to you is because of you yourself, you see, and the outreach you've done with Denny and getting him interested in you and what you're all about. And he's mentioned you to me, and so you got interested in me through him, and so now we're talking, and that's how it builds.
Yes.
It's a working process.
Yes, and you just felt kindness of your heart just resonated with me, because you're one of the most genuine channelers I've met, and I've met a few, so it's just the resonance. If it's there, it's there. I'll work with people. If it's not, it's not. My trust, it's hard for me to trust, so for me, I trusted you. I just felt the goodness of your heart, so it resonated well.
Well, thank you, and that means a lot, because this is something that I prize and I strive to cultivate, because I know how important it is to be in that energy and to hold that energy. That's key. It is crucial. And it is the natural state of the light being to be in a state of rapturous love in all they do, in all they think and feel, and their undertakings are ones of joyous exploration and discovery, and loving every minute of it, and for all that it brings to them, and that they have the benefit of experiencing. And it's like a kid in a candy store all the time. So I've been told so many wonderful things about being in the light. So that is our destiny once again when we're out of this place, in between lives. But the future is we're going to have an even fuller range of possibilities when we graduate from this sorry saga we're a part of right now, with the free will problem of this duality in the land of opposites.
Yeah.
the pendulum is swinging to the dark all too much right now. But once we figure that out and transcend it, it's going to be even more fantastic to have all of the universe available to us and many, many new adventures.
I agree 100%. So I'll do this in 2 separate videos, and I'll post it, and then can I send you the links to it so you could have a look at what I've posted
Sure,
on YouTube? And
I would appreciate
I'll
that.
write down all your contact information, and so people know how to reach you and utilize your good services, because you help people from the genuine kindness of your heart. I feel that vibration from you.
Well, this is what I do, and many of the people I work with are extremely troubled and extremely desperate, and so I feel quite blessed to be of service, even in a small way, for such a person, because I know that they won't be served by the mainstream medical approaches.
Yeah.
It's a containment exercise at best. They can medicate these people to a fare thee well sometimes to keep them on an even keel from harming themselves or suffering too intensely. If they dull their hallucinations and fears, it's a blessing. So there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But it's a stopgap measure.
It is.
And these people are in such terrible situations, and my heart goes out. I mean, I had a woman who called me and left a very strange message that the terrorists were after her and she needed help. But she didn't leave where she was or how to get back to her. And I eventually got another call and was able to get her to trust me enough to do a little work on her behalf. So I did a remote session. And she's running from these terrorists. And they're living underground, and only she can hear them, and the police can't hear them.
Yeah.
The kind of story that automatically people would assume this is just someone who's deranged. She's schizophrenic or whatever. She's psychotic. It's all delusional. Okay. Well, when I worked on her, what I found was she had alien implants, and she was actually an advanced star traveler who had incarnated in many, many worlds. And the ETs were highly interested in her because they wanted to learn how she was able to do that, because they're not able to do that readily themselves. So they were after her. They were literally after her for study. And she was running from them, but not realizing truly who she was running from. So her only conscious awareness about threatening forces that come from kind of the outside of your culture is terrorists. So that's how her mind interpreted that dilemma to her. But it was a real dilemma. She was on the run. They were after her. But, she was acting like a nut. But it was based on something real. And, of course, she was unnerved and unbalanced, so she wasn't able to handle it, process it in a constructive way. So she had problems, to be sure. She was not normal, but her story wasn't totally fabricated.
And I call myself the star traveler who've had many lifetimes on planets and explored space. So to me, this sounds totally normal. And to people hearing this right now, to me, it sounds totally normal. Yeah. So when people call you with help to book a session, it's there's something there that's going on. So it's worth exploring. I mean, I call myself the star traveler, and people are like, what is that? So, and then I start explaining exploration of space, that sounds very interesting. You probably have had some past lifetimes as an alien or something. Those that are more open to it say that. So I don't discount experiences and stories and what people share with me, or You know, like your client, that woman, she had aliens that wanted to see how she does stuff. So to me, that's normal. People say, hey, you live a weird life, but to me, it's normal. It's my life. It's very normal to hear these examples. So, and like you said, um, you can't do pro bono. Sometimes you help somebody, but these sessions are paid, they're worth it, and they help people. That's that's how it is, and we all have to make a living, bread and butter. Healers deserve respect and they deserve recognition for the work they do.
Well, if I had a nickel for every book that makes the statement that with all of the fascination and mystery about the afterlife down through the ages, no one's ever come back after they died to tell us what it's like or that there's something out there, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I talk to the dead all the time, and they're still out there, and they can talk to you. This is like a miracle.
Yeah.
But the world doesn't even know this is possible, and they're not prepared to believe it either. But, I mean, this is amazing that you could have an opportunity to do this through someone such as myself. It is such a tremendous blessing and a possibility for closure.
Mm-hmm.
If there's loose ends, things that were never said, it's an opportunity to do that and to feel again the presence of that loved one.
Yeah.
And you can't put a price on it.
Well, I've
So,
learned that my higher self has a common sense and is very quick, like bam, 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 at answering these questions. Very efficient. That's what I've noticed when I talk to my higher self. Same with you. It was very efficient, like whew, very efficient. So it's like meeting yourself again and saying hi. Thank you so much for the help you've given me, and meeting a wonderful person like you. Thank you so much for your kindness in helping me. And hopefully, it helps other people learn and to contact you and to to experience what this is like through your services, because it's worthwhile services. Every penny of it is worthwhile.
mm-hmm.
And I'll say it like it is. It's worthwhile to do this because it's healing. It's very healing, and I'm thankful that people like you are out there, people like Denny are out there, and you guys are doing the work that you do.
Well, we're trying to make a difference and make a contribution. Yeah, I know he's quite a seeker and a truth seeker and a light worker in how he goes about it. So that's the reason I did what I did with him. This isn't something that I normally do. So that was because of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here talking to you because of who you are. And that's an intuitive knowing.
Yes.
It's
And
not only that Denny says you're a good egg, you know. It's because I could see, you know, I knew intuitively that you're a genuine person and you care about what you're doing and you have a story and you're in need and you're a light worker. So, okay, I'm in.
thank you. And I don't feel that this is even for me. I think it's just to bring awareness. It's not even for me per se, because
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've I've just sat there sifting through my memories. So it's more as a, well, it is part of healing, but it's part of learning, my learning and others' learning. So it's not just for me. I don't do it just because I want to be on video and camera. I don't do it for that reason at all. And I don't want to be like, I'm not being paid for any of it. None of it. I do my own camera work, my own editing, my own posting. So I don't get a penny out of it. And I did it because I felt like it was something worthwhile participating in to help. It's just,
Well, I would certainly give you a hearty yes to that because I think it is important and it's helpful.
thank you. Thank you. And I will split this into parts and put it up and send to you, and hopefully people who are out there listening to this, it helps you somehow and brings in some healing as well to everybody.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Take care.
You too. Bye.